Hello, everyone.
Hey, bag ladies and bag dudes. I'm Sarah Lawson. This is my husband, Danny, and this is Ask Sarah, my weekly Q&A chat. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We had super weird weather in Chicago today. When I left the house this morning, I swear it was almost 70 degrees, and later in the afternoon, it was below 60. So hopefully tomorrow will be a nicer day. I see everyone checking in on Facebook and YouTube. Hey to Kristen, Linda from Florida. I'm sure Florida is getting much nicer weather than we are here. Who else? Donna. Donna's new, so welcome, Donna. Thanks so much for joining us. I see Pat from California. So we're going to be answering some questions live in a few minutes, but first I wanted to show you one thing and talk to you about another couple things. Violet, did you want to come and show everyone what we worked on yesterday? Sure. Okay. My daughter Violet is 9 years old, and we decided that we would start working on together what's called the Summer Sampler 2018 Quilt Along. It's hosted by Fresh Lemons Quilts, Swim Bite Quilt, and Freshly Pieced. So block 1 came out yesterday.
There she is.
Hey, this is the block that we made. It's a 12-inch block. There's 18 blocks total. So every week we get a new block every Monday. So we made this one as soon as it came out yesterday. And I think it came out pretty good. I did the cutting. I did the pressing. Violet pieced everything. I handed the strips to her in the correct order. I made a mistake because I originally had her sew these pink strips over here, and that was wrong. So I had to rip out half the block, but I think we did a good job, and I'm excited for the next block to come out. Did you like making this? Yeah? You want to say, did you learn anything? Was anything hard? Was anything easy?
Nothing was hard.
Nothing was hard?
How long did it take you to sew it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't timing.
Maybe 30 minutes for sewing time. Thanks, Violet. All right, so again, that was the Summer Sampler 2018 that Violet and I are working on. I had a bit of a struggle/learning lesson earlier today. I'm taking riding lessons, and I just started back up after 15 years, and I was never like an expert or any good. I just did it for fun, but I had to admit to myself today that something that we were working on, I was physically, I knew how to do it. I was able, but I was afraid. And so I talked to my friend Vanessa about it, and I realized that I need to start from scratch because I need to get over my fear. And instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it or riding a different horse, I realized that I needed to get over my fear and admit that I didn't know what I was doing and I needed help. I needed help was the biggest issue. So when I used to ride as a teenager, I never would have admitted that I didn't know how to do something. I just would have pretended because I didn't want other people around me to know that I didn't know what I was doing. But now as an adult, I finally feel comfortable with myself, I think, in admitting things about myself that are just me. Like, for instance, I don't have a lot of friends in real life. I'm a quiet person. I'm a homebody. I like to do stuff at home with everyone, with our family. And I'm okay with that. When I was younger, I would have been embarrassed with certain things, like my shyness and not having a lot of friends. I would have been embarrassed by that kind of thing. But I don't know. I want to improve, and I felt a connection with a lot of things that I have seen in the So Sweetness Facebook group in the past. When people are afraid of things like zippers or struggling with sewing curved seams or anything, I always see people admit that they need help. Maybe they'll ask a question in the Facebook group, try to make the project, and then I'll see them make more projects. They won't just stop and give up. And I came home from my riding lesson today, and I was almost in tears about it. And when I was driving home from the lesson, I told myself, why are you doing this? If it's hard, why don't you just give up and things, then you don't have to deal with it anymore. And I thought, same thing goes with sewing. If something's hard, don't just give up. If you want to do it still, just keep going, right? Do you have any thoughts about, I didn't really tell you that I was so upset when I came home because you weren't home yet, but.
Yeah, well, I told Sarah she's paying for a lesson, and if it's so funny because we jinxed it because she was riding a horse she liked. It was easy to ride. She was enjoying the riding. Then last week we literally talked right before the riding lesson, and then bam, she gets this new horse that's sort of a problem. And then she stuck it out, and then I'm like, I won't be able to come today, so you can always ask the trainer or whoever who books the horses, you're paying for this. Why not pick the horse you choose to, ride? So if you enjoy this horse, request that horse again. What's the big deal? Just like I want to overcome this, and which is totally great. I'm glad if you get knocked down, it's always get back up and and overcome whatever the problem is. But to me personally, if I'm enjoying a lesson, my concern is not to learn how to deal with difficult animals. I'd rather perfect my skill of using a normal horse and then just continue because she wants to jump. I think she's it's English. What is it called?
Without going too far into detail, I don't want to just coast along. I want to get over what the issue is because it's my personal issue, being afraid of things, and there's nothing.
Yeah, but I don't think you were afraid of the first horse, Waldo. It's this new horse. What's his name? Blake?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're scared of horses. It's just this horse is an aggressive, not easy to handle animal, which is when Spy was going for riding lesson, I would not stay with her to tack the horse if Sarah was not there because I feel uncomfortable. The horse is 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. I mean, you can easily get injured and whatnot. So that's just my take on it.
Anyway, the whole point of the story was my head was telling me to give up, but my heart was saying
stick with it.
Stick with it because I want to do it. And I want to get better, and whatever the issue is, I want to get over the issue. So
sure. That
was the whole moral of the story. I don't know if you feel like that sometimes with sewing, but there's a lot of times with certain techniques, especially when I, a couple years, in the past, tricky techniques, or just designing a pattern and something being difficult to figure out. You just want to keep chipping at it until you get it figured out. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, moving on to more happy things, you want to share your pick of the week?
Sure. That was a great segue right there. But my pick of the week is from Jill Carlson. She made this awesome satellite bag. I love that she chose a natural cork with the blue, it was called blue fleck, or what would you call that?
Was it with the metallic blue?
Yeah, metallic blue fleck.
And that was Allison Glass fabric. You already said it was a satellite bag. But great job to Jill Carlson. She posted it in the Facebook group. So if you're not already a member of the Facebook group, I hope you'll join us over there. And I was really excited to see the first satellite bags coming through the group because it's a new pattern. And especially since that one was combined with cork, which is, needs a little bit of extra patience to sew with. Not because it's thick or anything, just because, just because it's not quilting cotton. So great job to Jill. We also want to remind you, if you're enjoying these videos, if you're watching on Facebook, if you would like to share this video with your other sewing friends on Facebook, if you'll hit the share button. Either way, if you like the video, if you'll just hit the thumbs up for a like, and same thing on YouTube. The like button on YouTube is the thumbs up. The likes really help us out a lot on Facebook and YouTube, so we appreciate anytime you can do that, and thank you so much for sharing.
Also about the YouTube, some people may not know that when you subscribe to Sarah, say you're on the YouTube page and you click Sarah Lawson, then it takes you to her homepage. Next to her name where it says subscribe, there's a little bell there. If you ever want notifications if we're going online or post a new a new video or whatever, a pattern, if you click that little bell, it will give you a notification, which I believe will either send you a push notification through your cell phone or I think it's mostly through your cell phone or a tablet. If you have that, it'll give you a push notification that said, hey, Sarah's gone live. Click this and it'll take you right to it.
So they just have to hit the little bell picture?
Yes.
And what happens if they change their mind and they don't want to get the notifications?
You can go back, hit the bell again, and it'll take it off.
Okay, that sounds pretty easy.
Yep.
Oh, thanks for that. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll be answering a few questions live, and Danny's going to put them on the screen as well. I don't know if there were questions already or if it was mostly comments telling me not to be afraid. Oh, goodness. Clovis says, I wanted to ask about the backstitching also. It seems like she doesn't do that many. I'm not sure what the question was.
I know it might have been a combination with someone else.
Okay.
Let's go down and look.
I'm not sure.
Let's do some
I'm not sure about that. Okay.
Or this is one you can answer while I look for it.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm not so good at thinking quickly on my feet, so...
Oh, it didn't pop up yet?
What was the question? Do you want to just read it out loud?
Let's just scroll down through it. Okay, when back stitching, how many stitches?
Oh, okay. When back stitching, how many stitches do I go backwards?
Yes.
Maybe just a couple stitches.
Do you normally take, yeah?
Yeah, I normally take a couple stitches back, yeah. That's a good question. Jackie says, what is the difference between quilting cotton and a pearl cotton? Pearl cotton, do you mean the thread, like a pearl, like an embroidery pearl, or... I'm not really sure, Jackie. Let me know with a follow-up question in the comments, and Danny will post that as well. Linda says, where do you get hardware for bags? I love shopping at Emmeline Bags, and that's emmelinebags.com. She has a great selection. She is shipping from Canada, but I feel with the conversion rates, it's pretty fair pricing for the United States in case you're in the U.S. And she has a huge selection and lots of different finishes. Like my favorite are gunmetal, copper, which kind of looks like a rose gold, and there's also an iridescent rainbow finish to the hardware, as well as traditional like nickel and gold. Got my Sew News magazine today. Great to see your Sublime bag on the cover. How much cork is needed to make this bag? Thank you very much. And that was kind of a surprise being on Sew News magazine with the Sublime bag. I believe I used one 18 by 54 inch piece of cork, and that was for the accents on the bag, as well as the handles. And I believe that bag had a side strap as well. So just the 18 by 54 inch piece. Whenever I'm using cork, I always recommend, especially if you're not sure, draw all of your pattern pieces on the wrong side of the cork fabric first before you cut, just to ensure that you have enough, because if you just draw the first piece and then the second and then you just start cutting one at a time, you might realize that you haven't oriented all of the pieces on there so that you can fit what you need from that one piece of fabric. So me personally, I always draw all of my pieces on the fabric first. Pat says, Sarah, will your small sheets of cork work for the Oriole bag? I actually made that red Oriole bag behind me in an 18 by 54 inch piece of cork, just because of the strap, especially the smaller sheets of cork, which are 18 by 27 inches, just not enough fabric for that particular project. Judy says, what machine did you start your daughter on? Years ago, when my kids were much smaller, I got a plastic Janome starter machine. It was, my friend gave it to me. I know it's a relatively inexpensive machine, and we just used that to teach the kids how to sew straight. So we didn't put any thread in the machine when they were learning, and this was years ago, but we just had them sew with no thread just so they could get a feel for the needle. And we actually put loose leaf paper in the machine so they could sew on the straight lines. Now she's using my sewing machine, so I know it's a big machine, but she's really careful with the needle. How do you like working on the big machine? It's fine, right?
Yeah, I like working on it.
You like it? Okay. And it's easy to use, right? My machine is straight stitch only, and it doesn't have too many different things. It has a lever for back stitching, has the button for cutting the thread, or the heel on the pedal, so it's pretty easy for her to use. Good question, though.
Well, it looks like the question will not queue up the next one.
Okay.
But they want to know, can you explain what shape flex is? And that's from Audra.
Okay, that's a good question. I have some here. I'll pull it out. Okay, so shape flex interfacing
Val, can you hit number 6 on the number pad?
technically is a medium weight interfacing. So it's a woven fabric, which means it doesn't stretch. And on one side has fusible. So the side that feels bumpy is the side with the adhesive. So I use this for every lining. If I was making maybe a garment in a heavier fabric, I would not a heavier fabric, but like similar to a quilting cotton, I would use this to reinforce the area of the zipper. Some people use this interfacing for t-shirt quilts because the interfacing takes away the stretch of the fabric. And also if I'm using fabric for a bag that is technically a garment fabric, like this Oriole bag back here, this is a rayon fabric, which is for garments. And so I wanted to take away some of the drape, and not that it's incredibly stretchy, but I wanted it to be completely non-stretching in any direction. So I fused it to Shape Flex before I attached it to the foam interfacing, which was the interfacing as called for in the pattern. So this is Pellon Shape Flex. Woven Fuse is another brand of almost the same exact interfacing that would also be good for the same purpose, interfacing your lining fabric.
You know, they said for apparel, it's apparel cotton, not like a pearl. Like apparel.
Oh, apparel cotton. Okay. So apparel cotton, that's an interesting question. So apparel cotton could be a few different things, like this rayon. A knit fabric could also be apparel cotton. A quilting cotton is, let me pull this out. Quilting cotton is a woven fabric, so it doesn't have a stretch. The only way it has a stretch is on the bias. So if I sort of pulled it on a diagonal, I guess, from the selvage. So if I pulled it on a diagonal, this is the way that the quilting cotton would have stretch, which is good for binding things, binding quilts. But quilting cotton is great for a big bag, especially first-time bag makers, because it's really forgiving. It's not a difficult or tricky fabric to work with, and it's available in a lot of prints, like this cat print on this satellite bag. Karen says, is there really a difference between thermolam and fusible fleece? That's a great question, and when I lecture about interfacings, I always touch on these two things. So Pellon makes a product called thermolam, and they also make a product called fusible fleece. Both of those products are fusible. The main difference is that the thermolam is a needled fleece. So if you're a quilter and you're familiar with warm and natural batting, that's a needled product. So it's a denser fleece. I like it because it lies more flat against the wrong side of the fabric after you fuse it. The fusible fleece is a slight bit more loftier. So I like using it for, say, reinforcing magnetic snaps or smaller projects. But if I'm making maybe a hobo bag or a bigger project, I like using the thermolam because, like I said, it's smoother against the wrong side of the fabric. Tammy says, is there a trick to ironing a finished bag? I finished the Baker Street bag last night, my first one, but does not have the crisp look. All right, I'm going to grab Violet's Baker Street bag because I see it right over here, and I can show you. Okay. Maybe you want to move the question off the screen so they can see.
Yeah, let me miss that one more through. Yeah, Violet hit number 6.
Okay, Violet's going to remove the question so we can see. So this is the Baker Street bag. To iron this bag, what I would do is, here's the seam connecting the front of the bag to the bottom. I would pinch that seam and on my ironing board, take my iron and sort of glide it over. If you have a clapper as well, which is basically a wooden block, you can get some steam on there from the iron and then take the clapper and press it, but just pressing the iron on there works as well. And just work your way around the bag. Pinch all of the seams. So here's the side of the bag and the front. I'm going to pinch that seam, put it down on my ironing board, take the iron and flatten it, and just work your way around the whole entire bag. So sometimes I see photos of bags, which you can tell if a bag has been ironed or not. And I know it's exciting to finish the bag and take it outside, take photos, but like pressing it will really help. And especially if the bag's made of foam, the heat from the iron on the seam, especially with the foam in there, will sort of give it a bit of, I don't know if you would call it memory, but it keeps that seam kind of compressed and flattened down, and it will hold its shape from the pressing. So that's how I would suggest ironing this particular bag, and it'll work for other bags as well. But I just wanted to pull this particular one out since you said you just finished this one. So hopefully that helps.
Violet number 6.
Okay. Okay, Diana says, Sarah, I'm having trouble getting the gussets to line up. They don't seem to make a nice wedge to sew. Did she say which bag that she was working on for the gussets?
I didn't see that in a follow-up or a previous
Okay,
comment.
let me know, Diana, in the comments what bag you're working on so I can properly answer the question, because I don't want to answer for a different bag if I'm thinking something different in my head. Okay.
Well, it
What was
did
the
say,
question?
I've always heard that you have to oil Juki machines a whole lot more than any other machine. Is that true? I'm thinking of getting a Juki Exceed 600, and that's from Jamie.
Okay, so for my Juki, I oil my machine maybe twice a week, depending on how often I'm sewing. I used to iron it every single day, and the last time I took it in for sewing machine maintenance almost 2 years ago, the technician said I don't need to oil it that often. He did say, however, for sergers, they do need to be, or they should be oiled after each use or after every day, just because there's a lot more moving parts in the serger, and oiling it after you use it each time really helps with the serger. But The Juki, I'm oiling mine about twice a week, and it might vary depending on your machine, but I can definitely tell. It's very subtle, but I can definitely tell when my machine needs to be oiled or when I've let it go too long because the sound is a little bit different, and I don't know. I feel so connected to my machine. I kind of know when something's not when it should be. I think a normal person would say, oh, that just sounds like a sewing machine, but I can always tell when I need to oil my machine.
Before you answer this one,
Okay.
people have mentioned that you can type your questions in capitals so I could see it easier. I can actually see your comments easy. We're getting so many comments through Facebook and YouTube same time. Our screen just scrolls through like this. So as it goes through, it's constantly cycling. So even you wrote in comments in capitalization, I would still see it with or without the capitalization on there. Just so most people will recommend it, but I could see it without either way.
Or maybe if they put a lot of heart emojis or rainbows, then it would pop out out at you.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, emoji at the start would probably be the easiest.
Savreet says, do you recommend the sew-in foam interfacing over a fusible one like Bosel or Pellon? So my favorite, and the one I use all the time, is made by Annie's, and it's called Soft and Stable, and it's a sew-in interfacing. I have tried all the other different foam interfacings, and that's just my personal preference. I know everyone, and I can tell from past years, from seeing people commenting on social media, that everyone has their own personal preference. But by Annie's is only sew-in. Pellon has a sew-in and a one-sided fusible and a two-sided fusible, and Bosel has that as well. And the automotive headliners that some people use for foam interfacing. So there's a lot of options. I would say maybe, feel free to try each kind at least once, at least a small piece, to see what you like the best. I just like the sew-in because I feel like, especially when I'm wrangling the bag or turning it right side out through the lining, I feel like it has a smoother finish when the bag is done as opposed to some of the fusibles. But again, that's just my personal preference. Diana says the Oriole bag gussets. Oh, you were talking about lining them up, right? All right, so let me pull this one from back here. Were you talking about lining up the sides and the bottom? So in the video, I believe I made a marking on the center of the bag, and I started pinning the center, and then I pinned from the top corner. If you're talking about a bag that has visible darts or gussets that you have to line up.
Val, which hit number 6?
I forgot what I was going to say.
Lining the darts up you were talking about.
Sometimes pressing the seams in opposing directions helps with lining that up because the seams nest. I'm not sure if sorry, I feel like I did a bad job answering that question, but feel free to email me and we can talk it out further if you need some additional help. Sonia says, can shape flex be interchanged with just regular medium weight interfacing? It depends. What specific type of interfacing are you talking about? So I would not say that it would be interchangeable with craft fuse or Decker bond because those are a little bit slightly stiffer. Some thinner interfacings are okay, but I feel like my linings look nicer by having the shape flex because they're a little bit more crisp, if that makes sense. Katie says, using vinyl for the exterior of the Oriole, and I had a hard time sewing on the strap connectors. Do you have any recommendations? I'm not sure if so the strap connectors are in the back. I think you were probably talking about sewing these to the flap. I'm not sure if you had the 2 layers of the tabs back here or if you had a thicker layer. I know you've quilted on vinyl before, Katie, so
Val, which hit number 6?
I'm not sure if you just had too many layers for the tabs, or you can also use a rivet too if you're having trouble and sort of bypass a little bit of the extra stitching by using the rivet. Any other questions coming through? Maybe a few more?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that for some reason the comments don't want to pop up.
Oh, okay. What do you store in the zipper flap of your satellite bag? That's a great question. When I first made the original version, I used to stash tissues in there because I think I was using it during the winter. I've put my keys in there before. This is the satellite bag. This is the zipper flap that she's talking about. I think for me personally, the zipper flap was more of a design feature than, I mean, this flap is still very usable. You can get inside and put things in. But I don't use mine as often, and I don't store a ton of stuff inside. But like I said, small things, tissues, grocery lists. I've put those types of things in there, things that I need to grab in a hurry, and things that are not totally precious. Like I wouldn't put credit cards in here or anything like that. Maybe we'll keep this on my lap. Mary says, just received vinyl fabric from you and not sure if I need to change my stitch length or change the foot for my project. So I would use either, because vinyl or glitter vinyl is a little bit sticky on the metal, your regular metal sewing machine foot, either use a Teflon foot or a walking foot to sew with it. You might, depending on what needle you're using previously, you might want to change your needle as well. I usually use either Oregon 9014 needles or Schmetz Microtex needles. And the stitch length, I always recommend, because different vinyls and even cork can vary in thickness. And so I always recommend cutting off a little scrap piece and test sewing. And I personally do this too with each type of fabric that I use before I sew with it in the bag, just to see if I need to increase the stitch length. Sometimes if I increase the stitch length, it's too much and I need to bring it back down a little bit. So always cut off a little piece, or after you've cut all the pieces from the bag, I'm sure you'll have some little scraps left over. Use those scraps to test sew before you start working on your project.
Violet, hit number 6, would you? Nancy wants to know, when putting your bag together, when is the best time to insert your hardware? If I'm adding purse feet, do I do that as soon as I'm working on the bottom before I put the bag together?
That's a good question. So if you're working on a bag, so this bag has a gusset, so it doesn't have a clearly defined bottom panel, but the bottom panel would be centered over here. The easiest way is to insert the purse feet before you start construction. If you're not sure where the purse feet are going to go, I would suggest inserting them after you've assembled the exterior of the bag. So generally when you're sewing a bag, you sew the exterior, then you sew the lining, and then you usually put them together in some manner. So once you've sewn the exterior of this bag, you can kind of tell where you want the purse feet to go if it's not noted in the pattern. And it's not noted in this particular pattern because I just didn't have purse feet in this bag. But once you have the exterior of the bag assembled, you can decide where you want the purse feet to go, and it'll still be easy before you attach it to the lining to insert those purse feet over here. If the bag has a clearly defined bottom panel, like it's an actual bottom panel that you sew to
see the inside of
the front or the back of the bag, I generally like to
hit
insert.
Number 6, please.
Let me grab my purse foot demo from the other day.
There's this side.
On Sunday, I did a demo for installing purse feet, and if you have a clearly defined bottom panel like this, I like to install the purse feet about 1.5 inches in from, down from the top and in from the side, and just replicate that for all 4 of the corners. So that's another option as well. After you attach the fabric to the interfacing, attaching the purse feet there. So you're showing the inside of the bag?
Yeah, the pockets, the zipper.
Okay.
And you already showed, there's
a lot of pocket options in this bag, and the one pocket actually fits a cell phone pretty nicely. This one right here, if you want to show it. Yeah, so I got Danny's cell phone in that little pocket right there.
My cell phone?
Isn't it yours? I was charging it for you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I usually, when I was using this bag for myself, I had the cell phone in the one pocket and then my wallet in the other one next to the cell phone. Yeah, this one right here.
Cell phone pocket right here.
Yep.
Wallet pocket right here. It's a little bigger in size.
Yep. Or whatever, but yeah. For my wallet's not too big, so it's
someone asked also if you would ever use duck cloth to make a bag.
Duck cloth, I believe I have in the maybe I haven't. I've definitely used canvas fabric. Duck cloth is a bit stiffer in my mind and a little bit thicker than canvas fabric. I don't think I have personally, but I have seen in the Facebook group for sure. And the one that comes to mind is a Lilium laptop bag that someone made in either duck cloth or canvas and cork fabric. So it was a lot of thickness going on with that bag. Gwen says Chicago screws instead of rivets. When did we do the Chicago screw demo? I think it was
last week.
We're trying to get all of our videos that we show during our live shows, like especially during Social Sunday, I often do a demo. We're trying to get all those separated, but I believe either 2 or 3 weeks ago on Social Sunday, I did a demo for Chicago screws. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. The Chicago screws obviously just screw in, whereas the rivet press requires either a hand press or a tabletop press. It just depends what you have access to and what you are willing to spend on a press, or, obviously the Chicago screws, I bought like 50 Chicago screws for, I don't know, $9. They were really inexpensive.
And they're asking for, bag hardware. Once again, M-line bags.
M-line bags is great for bag hardware.
Except for like a doctor's bag, there's some kind of hardware for that.
Okay, I believe she has the frames for that on M-line bags. Yeah, and that's mlinebags.com.
What's the name of foot you use? Mary wants to know.
What's the name of the foot?
Yeah. Right there. What's the name of the foot you use? Your
Oh.
sewing foot.
Oh, okay. My regular sewing machine foot, it's not technically a 1/4 inch foot because it doesn't have a guide on the center, but it is a 1/4 inch from where the needle is to the edge of my foot. That's for my Juki. I like thinner feet that don't have a lot of extra things, just because when I'm making a bag, I like not having a guide on the side, or I don't want to call it an obstruction, but I like the smaller the foot that I can sew with, the better for me personally. Julie says, love how your husband knows about the pockets. That bag he's holding, do you use pre-made piping? We'll buy the pattern. This bag actually doesn't have piping.
I did see someone make one in the sewing group. If you look for it, they used.
Do you remember who it was?
I don't, but they, instead of having the zipper, they used piping. Where that was, so they took the zipper, did not use that, and they put piping instead.
We do have a video on the website or on YouTube for inserting piping in case you want to replace the zipper with piping or put piping. I did see a few Oriole bags, this bag with piping, at least a few on the flap and on the sides.
Yep.
Yeah. Brianna says, I'm going to be in the Chicago area soon. What's the name of your shop? I'd love to stop by. We actually run this out of our home, so we don't have a brick and mortar shop, but some of my favorite shops in Chicago are Vogue Fabrics, Quilter's Destination, Quilter's Quest, Thimbles, which is a little farther out, so Second City Quilting also is in Chicago.
I guess I put that up there, but I'd probably got talking too much on something silly probably. So you missed it.
Oh, Nikki says, my sister asked me to make her a case pouch to store her travel size milk pump. She had a baby about 2 months ago. I was thinking the Zeppelin with PUL or Lamifix fused cotton lining. What do you think? Will the Zeppelin fit the pump and 10-ounce bottle? And about the lining? Here's the Zeppelin. I think that will fit. I'm trying to remember how big mine was. I think that would be a good choice because the Zeppelin's a relatively quick sew. Maybe make pockets on the side for the bottles. I think the smaller bottles to stand upright. That would be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, good idea. Gwenna says, will you all do a live feed from the retreat?
We could do like a cell phone. It wouldn't be like this style. We're limited to the bandwidth they have available in that area, so we don't have like a hard connection to use. So it would be like a cell phone feed, and would it be either Facebook or YouTube, or maybe one day Facebook, the next day YouTube? Yeah, we totally can do it.
Yeah, we have really high internet here, right?
Our internet, we have gigabit, so it's really fast.
Danny said if we ever were to move, we have to move based on where there's high-speed internet, right, Danny?
Well, I told Sarah, what's the show we watched, Violet?
Riverdale?
No, with the horses.
Heartland?
Heartland. Violet Sarah watched show, I watched, and so does Sarah together. And they live on a ranch. And I'm like, I could totally live on a ranch, maybe 5 acres of land, have dirt bikes, ATVs, lots of space. But the problem is most of those areas don't have good internet. So if you live in an area like that, it has 5 acres of land, a 4-bedroom house, send us a message. It's got to have at least 100 megabit download speeds and upload speeds. All right.
That's so funny.
I'm ready to move.
Cheryl says, will the Big Kick work with your Sizzix dies? It will. The Big Shot, the Big Kick. There was one more, a third older machine. But yeah, those will work with my Sizzix dies. Most of my dies are on the smaller side. There's one that's a little bit bigger, but they're all sort of smaller dies as far as the range that Sizzix has. Arabia says, Juki question, plan on buying the same as you, but wonder if you ever accidentally cut your threads with the foot pedal while sewing. As I heard, that's a problem. Can the pedal cutter be disabled? I'm not sure if it can be disabled, but I don't think I've had the machine since 2013. I don't think I've ever accidentally cut the thread when I didn't mean to. So you do have to, you need to, put your heel down on it. I'm not sure that it could be done by accident. Maybe it can, but I've never come close to accidentally cutting the thread. So if that helps.
Lots of great comments.
Okay. I almost forgot. Bag ladies and bag dudes, if you are, and I know I super am.
Let's see if we can turn
Maybe
this on.
one day Danny will be a bag dude and make his own bag. But let us know in the comments because we super love the community, the involvement, lots of pictures coming through the Facebook group every day. I like getting the emails, people referring to themselves as bag ladies. So let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to do like a live show and have Sarah try to instruct me to make a bag. But maybe when she does the sling bag, it could be interesting to see how it works out between us. Because I think I'm pretty...
The sling bag is not going to be an easy... He's talking
Right,
about...
that's why it'll be interesting because I'll be getting upset and you'll be like, stop sucking. And I'm like, I'm working my best off here.
The sling bag, in case you didn't watch when we talked about it last time on the live show, I'm going to be doing a backpack with one strap.
Hit number 5.
Because Danny wants a backpack with, not a traditional backpack, just like a single strap backpack. So we're calling it a sling. Everyone suggested it was called a sling backpack.
Yeah,
and
a sling bag.
That's not going to be a beginner bag, so we'll see how you do with that. I don't know.
That's why it'll be interesting because I'll probably fail, but it'll still be mine, so I'll wear it. Or use
well,
it.
you shouldn't say you're going to fail right off the bat.
Well, if it's challenging and it'll be my first one, I think it'll be interesting to see. We'll see.
But don't you think, I have this outlook when I teach in person too. Like, I've never had anyone not be able to complete a project or like throw their project down and stomp out of the room, because all you have to do when I teach a class is I'm going to tell you, all right, you're going to sew from this edge to this edge. Now do that. So you're going to do it. Then I'm going to come back around. Okay, now we're going to sew the zipper from
Sounds
this edge
good.
to this edge. You know what I mean?
That
Like,
would be
I don't see how you
to a
could...
complete new sewer.
Well, it's like the videos too. Like, I don't know how you could fail.
We'll see. Maybe it'll be as easy and as good
unless
as
you
say.
were using a weird fabric, but...
What are you trying to say?
No, I just mean like if you were working with a difficult fabric
okay.
that would be hard to sew, I could see how you might fail, but I'll help you choose the right fabric.
No.
Doctor Who fabric?
Yeah, I'll choose it.
Lauren says, how do you organize your leftovers after cutting into a yard? So for years, I used to have these 2 huge hat boxes. So they were just round, heavy-duty boxes with lids. And when I'd finish making a bag, my scraps, I would put them in there. I quilt occasionally, but I'm not a scrap quilter. And so I never, ever use those scraps. So every few years, I would find a friend and ask for their address and send them a box of scraps. So that's what I do with my scraps. They were really stressing me out, the scraps, because they would compile up. I would never use them, and I didn't have a plan for them, and a lot of times they wouldn't go together. So I have a friend that makes crazy quilts, and crazy quilts are basically, I don't want to say random assortments of fabrics, but it's not a cohesive fabric line where everything's matchy-matchy. Crazy quilts are just extremely creative, and I'm not sure if I could ever make a crazy quilt, because I'm not good at selecting that many fabrics. So anyway, I think the last box of scraps I sent to her. Her name's Kim. She lives in Wisconsin, and she makes crazy quilts. And I think I saw some of my fabrics in her quilt. So that's what I do with scraps. That was really long-winded. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that such a big story. Glorimar says, Sarah, what do you do with all your makes? Sell them, donate them, hoard them. I have a good amount in the basement. When I go to teach and give a trunk show, I have 2 huge suitcases with bags, and I also have like a box and a half with bags, and so the car is full with bags. What do you think about all those bags that I take to
There's
teach?
a lot. It's a lot. It's like too large.
We have an SUV, and when I go to teach, like the whole SUV is stuffed, and the seats are all down.
Yeah, when she comes home, we carry it in the house, and it's literally our whole living room is completely full. So there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it's funny, Diana, I know that the I Spy is a very easy sew. It may be more challenging because it does use vinyl. But,
No,
I wouldn't want to start easy because I follow someone on YouTube and he's a technology guy. And he brought his wife in and they built a computer together. She had to do all the work. He instructed her. And if you've ever built a computer, it's really simple, actually. It's like Legos. It fits in this socket here or it fits in this socket here, and it only fits in that socket. So it's like you're not going to be able to put something in the wrong spot generally. But she did it, but it was really funny to watch because he was drinking beer while he was doing it. And so he was starting to get, a little out there, and it was just a very funny segment. I enjoyed watching it. His name is Bitwit on YouTube. If you guys want to see something like that, it's very entertaining. He's got I think 1 million followers or something like that.
So I don't really usually drink, but you're saying I should drink when I teach you how to sew?
No, because I don't think you don't drink. So I mean, like 1 glass of wine or whatever you may drink will be like, I'm done, Danny. I'm not working with you no more.
I'm getting sleepy.
I'm
right?
getting too frustrated. You're not listening to what I'm saying, Danny. But I want to do it my way. It's gonna be easier. It's funny. One time Sarah, Val, would you press number 6? When Sarah was sewing a bag, and I saw that she was pinning it, and say you have to sew around the circle, and she would do it right here from the start. You line up the lines, pin it here, then pin it this corner and this corner, then you fill in. I'm like, Sarah, why aren't you starting from one end and keeping it tight all the way around, then get to the other end? She's like, Danny, well, if you sewed, you would know that if you did that, you would get, the ends would not line up correctly. And if you do it my way, you'll get it, and you won't have any puckering around like a curve or something like that. I'm like, if you say so, boss lady. But I'm like, it clearly looked, so I tried it out of spite, just like, hey, you know, seemed like a great idea, right? So I did it myself, and she was 100% right. When you did it like this, it did not have the correct
because you have
endpoints.
you have excess on one side if you start on one end,
Yep,
right?
I agree. So I'm more of a person that's hard-headed. I like to fail my own experiences instead of take advice and learn on my own, you know?
Well, I think you have your own ideas about things, and you're
Yep.
very rigid in you
Sure.
knowing what you're doing, even
Yep.
when you don't.
No, I think I do 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Where to go from there? Is there any more questions?
Yeah, the
Or just a
quilt was
comment?
quite easy because it was just straight lines and just cutting. So it was like, you can't fail with that.
He made a strip quilt. If you didn't see when he showed the quilt, it was just strips, right? Going across
Yes,
the quilt.
yes, it was.
Yeah. But that's another instance where you really should pin from the corners and the center so that you
Pinning.
evenly distribute the fabric. That's super
I was
important.
just holding it by hand and starting right there and like just sewing across.
Charlene says, I tried using my zipper foot on my new Juki today, and the needle didn't line up with the little slot on the side of the foot. I had to move it so it cleared the foot. Should I call Juki? My old Juki zipper foot had a little screw that you can move the foot from side to side. So I'm not sure if that's the issue or not, or if you did move it and it wouldn't move any further. But if there's a problem, you for sure should call the distributor or the shop that you bought it from, because they should help you out if you ever have any questions or have any concerns about the machine, especially when you just bought it. What's the best way to sew zippers? They are very hard. Mine are always wonky. So,
There's a couple things with that, right? You want to use the right zipper, because I know someone in the group, they purchased zippers. I don't want to say someone's name and say it wrong, but they purchased a zipper. They've already made this one bag, and they made it probably 10 versions of it, and it all turned great. And they may bought a zipper from a different manufacturer, and when they sewed it, it turned to that wonky where it was like wavy.
wavy.
Yeah. And so one person recommended, hey, it's probably the zippers you use. Try a different zipper. If you've done it already and it didn't have that problem previously, it's probably the zipper. But if you're not, what do you use? Like the Dritz Wonder Tape or whatever?
Yeah, if it's an area where you can't, if it's not on the edge of the fabric where you can't use Wonder Clips to hold everything in place, the Dritz Wash Away Wonder Tape is amazing for sewing with zippers. But like I said, if it's an area with the zippers on the end of the fabric, you can use Wonder Clips for that just as well. I'm not saying to iron the heck out of it, but sometimes when you purchase a zipper in a little packet, it comes folded and it has the little wave in it from where it was folded. Lightly take your iron and you can flatten that out. Because if it has that crease in it before you sew it in, it'll have that crease when the project's finished. So I'm not sure if that's the issue, but that could be another solution as well for the zippers.
Valid shit number 6. Nikki, that photography video, I am going to be working on it real soon because we were really busy finishing the 4-pack bundle and we had other stuff going on in the back, and it was in the back burner.
Why don't you elaborate on what her question is in case...
She was asking about, I promised about doing a photography video, like how to take pictures of your bags, and to improve them with, minimal...
Simple things.
Yes.
That anybody could do.
Yes, absolutely. So I would like to get started on that. I don't want to say exactly like it's going to be this week, but this week or next week, I want to get started on it and getting different formats for using your cell phone versus a camera and what you can do to improve it.
Just easy things without buying extra equipment. Is that
maybe,
right?
and if I do recommend it, like a piece of equipment, it would be something inexpensive, possibly a ring light that you can put behind a camera. It may cost $20 or something like that, or doing like a white box that you can purchase from Amazon for $20.
So we're keeping it free or low cost,
Low
right?
cost for sure, and with options to upgrade. So you don't have to buy any of that. You can use what's available to you, but if you wanted to make a small purchase, these small options can give you this look. So I'm going to do it with the product and then without the product, and you can determine if you want to use it or not use it.
But there's a ton of free things that you can do that are easy, because I know when I was shooting the photographs for the 4-pack video bundle, I did all that outside with very specific climates, regarding the sun and
Sarah likes overcast.
I like an overcast day For sure.
For sure. Pictures overcast. Even inside your house, if you want to take it by a window, it can't have the sun shooting on the product, and you cannot have the window with a light bright behind it because it'll make your item you're shooting, it's going to be dark. But even I tried something new with the last photos. I did it mostly in our yard and on the stairs, then different backdrops in nature. Sarah's not such a big fan of that. She wanted the concrete background, so she shot it the way she liked to shoot the 4-pack. So sometimes I like to shoot stuff inside. I love against our natural color floors. We have a darker brown and it's neutral, so you put a color against it, it's always great. And if I was showing something like this, I would find either yellow, green, little items next to it, like, so it could be scissors, it could be a ruler, something, pencils, a marker, and you put it next to the item, even a flower, something that color coordinates with the bag and that's not going to distract. So you have a neutral background, the item, then something that looks nice next to it, but it's not going to steal its shine. It just looks like
a smaller.
It could be like take one of those green things over there. You can lay it on the table, like markers. I mean, if you've seen Sarah's stuff like that.
He's talking about grabbing like a couple.
Exactly, like put that next to it.
Whatever you want. But...
And if you were to it'd be a different angle coming down, so you would see this next to it. This would be like a green to match it. Same thing with like green and white there. It's those little things make it look nice to even better. I mean, you're still gonna have a nice picture without that, but you can spice it up a little bit with these little tidbits of stuff, which I'm sure every sewist has. Is you have a ton of thread. You have even scraps if you wanted to, markers, pens, easy color pops. All right, let's see. You only have a few days overcast in Southern California. If you were to have that issue, if you go to your window, there's two things you can do. If you have a shower curtain, you can take your shower curtain off, put it in front of your window. That's going to soften the light, so it's not going to be harsh. And that soft light will replicate an overcast light. So when I say soft or harsh, so if you shine a light something, if you can't see really right now, but the light, a harsh light would give you a shadow that's a crisp line. If you have a soft light, it's going to be a blended shadow, so it's not so bold and stands out. You want a soft light, and that gives you, it's a more natural looking photo. All right. I think we should probably end it right there for good. Okay. It's been a good show. Thanks everyone for coming back this week. We appreciate it. You guys have been really wonderful sharing the videos, liking them, and we really appreciate that a ton. I mean, it really helps a lot getting spreads the Sew Sweetness around. Even though Sarah's all mine, so we can't spread her that much. We just really appreciate it, and we'd like to say thank you for that.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Violet, you want to press number 9.